Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're going to have a look at some of the ongoing fighting that is taking place, and I want to talk about a very specific incident that a lot of you may have observed on YouTube. And the incident that I'm talking about is the engagement where you can see the crewman of a what is believed to be a Ukrainian BTR-4. That's basically a vastly upgraded version of a Russian BTR variant armored infantry fighting vehicle, wheeled armored infantry fighting vehicle. And in the case of the Ukrainian version, it has a remotely operated 30 millimeter cannon, and in some cases it can fire anti-tank guided weapons as well. And you can see it has a thermal imaging sight and a flat panel display specifically for the gunner of the BTR-4. And in this incident, if we go back and we look at it, and unfortunately, because of YouTube guidelines, I'm unable to actively show that video without certain repercussions. And in this video, you see the gunner of the BTR-4 operating his 30 millimeter, and at some point, he gets a what appears to be a Russian BMP-1 in his crosshairs, and he then proceeds to destroy it. And I got to tell you, at no time should the Russians be deploying BMP-1s in this conflict. Yet they are. We believe that some what has traditionally been higher quality units are still operating the BMP-1, and that would be units from the 4th Guards Tank Division. That's just based west of Moscow in this area. Normally you have the 2nd Guards Motorized Rifle Division and the 4th Guards Tank Division that is based southwest of Moscow. And quite often these units are observed in some of the May Day parades and such. And now these units have been tossed into the fray of this ongoing war in Ukraine. And just kind of back to that incident where you see this BTR-4 gunner, and he's operating his flat panel display. You can clearly see they're moving back and forth. You can see that the gun is stabilized of the 30 millimeter cannon, and he engages a BMP-1 at fairly close range in urbanized combat, and ends up destroying this BMP-1 with very little effort. Now, obviously, if the BMP-1 would have had the ability to fire its 73 millimeter low pressure gun, which is basically a RPG 7 that it fires out of the tube of that 73 millimeter weapon system, it could have destroyed, and probably would have destroyed, the BTR-4. But at no time was the BMP-1 able to track, identify, and then fire at the BTR-4. And unfortunately for the Russians, the BMP-1 has just a traditional day sight with and they don't use a flat panel display where they can zoom in and zoom out and identify and then target the enemy vehicle quickly, like the BTR-4 was able to do. And I think that is a class example of what we're kind of seeing within this conflict, is that in many cases the Russians are coming to the battlefield with lesser technology than what the Ukrainians are fielding. And there's a host of weapon systems that the Ukrainians are using that are more advanced than what the Russians are in fact using. Now, obviously, some of the newer Russian systems may have comparable optics like we see on the BTR-4, but quite frankly, I've not seen it. I've I've had the opportunity to see the gunner's system in say a T-72B3, and that does have for at least the gunner, it has a very small a flat panel display for the gunner that does operate in the thermal spectrum. And we've also seen, at least in the course of this conflict, some of them aren't working very well, or in fact they've been removed from the actual tanks for a number of reasons. They appear to have the thermal. If you're looking at the turret and to the right of the main gun, you'll see this big boxy complex basically sitting on top of the turret. That's the thermal imaging optic that's used in the T-72B3M and other variants. Other vehicles like the T-80U and older B2 models or the BV models of the T-80s and the T-72s, they don't have the thermal imaging optics, and they're only really able to operate during daytime engagements or at night at very close distances with that low light optic that uses the starlight scope. And you know, if you look at a Russian vehicle, that they are not using thermal imaging. If you look to the left of the main gun and you see this big circular system that looks like a spotlight to the left of the main gun, that's not actually a spotlight. It is a spotlight, but it projects light in the IR spectrum. So you can't physically see it unless you put on some. If you put on some PVS-7s, then obviously you would be able to see that vehicle very clearly. And I highly doubt that the Russians are actively using those as at night, as it would really just kind of give away their position. But back to that one engagement where you see this BTR-4 getting it on with this BMP-1, and the BMP-1 is just so outclassed in that type of engagement, and just the fact that we were seeing the BMP-1 being deployed in this conflict really kind of surprised me, and it's really foretelling in terms of what we're seeing in this war, and especially at times how we see the Russians really kind of getting the bad end of a lot of these engagements. And we've seen, I would say, the Ukrainians deploying even more successful devices, successful systems that work better for the defense of Ukraine than some of the systems that the Russians again are using. And going back to the Stunka or the Skiff anti-tank guided weapon system, where the operator can operate it remotely, or 25-50 yards from the actual missile, and doesn't have to worry about when the missile is fired the inherent thermal and smoke signature that it gives off, of like you would with say a javelin even. So we are seeing those operating very successfully against Russian forces, especially Russian forces that are operating in column along these roadways. And I saw one video that had one of these skiffs or Stunkas taking out 4 different vehicles, and that he had 4 missiles, or they were reloading the missiles. Who knows? You can't see that. All you can see is the actual operator who is operating this on kind of this laptop-looking system, and he's just looking and scanning for targets and sending the missile down range, and you can clearly see in some cases they're hitting and quite possibly causing catastrophic kills. In other videos too, you can see that it had no effect on the, especially on some of the frontal aspect shots of some of the T-72B3s or T-90s that the Russians are using, and in those cases it didn't have much of effect. It's not a top attack weapon per se, but on a side aspect shot, they're killing the hell out of the Russians with those systems. But yeah, if you have the opportunity, go look at that. You'll know, because it's all you really see is kind of it's gun camera footage. It's the flat panel display. That's all you really see with a reticle on there, and then you see the BTR-4 fire, thump 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 thump, and then you can see the engine hatch blow open on the BMP-1, and you can tell it's just completely destroyed it. Now, was there crew in there? Hard to say. It may look like you couldn't really see the BMP-1 turret scanning for targets or anything like that, and it has a one-man crew in that very antiquated system, and just vastly outclassed, and probably should never have even been on the battlefield. I would think that the Russians at this point would have completely removed those BMP-1 systems from service, and I would think that as we look at the Russians going to a different type of armored fighting vehicle, be it a boomerang or the T-15, the kind of the AFV variant for the T-14 Armata family. I would say at this point the Russians really need to look at a bigger, safer, better vehicle to transport its motorized infantry around. And at the same time, I think the T-72 is now proving itself to be a design that may have done okay in the 70s and 80s, but in 2022, the T-72 and any variant of the T-72, especially the way ammunition is stored throughout the vehicle, risking a highly trained tank crew in direct combat, is really ridiculous. And the Russians really need to focus on at all cost really replacing a lot of those armored vehicles, and maybe just scrapping the whole T-72, T-80, T-90 design, and expediting the fielding of something that's safer for the crew. The catastrophic kills that we are seeing in this conflict, I really feel sorry for the Russian tank crews and for the Ukrainian tank crew. I mean, the Ukrainians are using variants of the same vehicle as well, and are kind of suffering from the same catastrophic losses when their tanks are penetrated, and that ammunition then is cooked off. And then I think the Russians really need to look at, ASAP, getting targeting pods for its aircraft, and really investing in drones as well, given their ability to do that at some point. But I again really encourage you to seek that video out and check it out, and I think it really shows you the fallacy in some of these Russian operations that we're seeing, and some things that just really make you scratch your head. Not one time in all these videos that I've had the opportunity to watch of this ongoing conflict, and these Russian tank units moving in column, and most of them have all been in column or operating individually. It's really strange, but I've never seen the Russians pop smoke at all, or put down a smoke screen of some sort, and it's just odd, and not sure what to make of it, and it's really kind of beyond lack of training. Did they not deploy smoke grenades on their tanks? I don't know. It's really kind of and especially when you see one tank get hit by an anti-tank guided weapon system, you would think immediately those other tanks that could be at risk from from other anti-tank weapon systems engaging them would immediately pop smoke. But you don't see that happen at all. I've not seen it once. If someone can point out a case where that's actually occurred, it'd be interesting to see. But I've not seen it. Maybe I just haven't seen it yet. But it's just one of those other issues that just make me just scratch my head at this conflict. But that's all I have. Wanted to talk about that one engagement, especially between the BTR-4 and the BMP-1. That probably should have never happened. Have a good day, everybody.